Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Now let us continue with the remaining three slides on the Islamic critiques on religious pluralism and its strength. And we are here with a very good background, giving some relaxing feeling, even though we are posing some debates against religious pluralism. Okay, now let's take a look at how how Islam uh, you know, the critics of Islam to global ethics. Now, we know that global ethic is concept or formula, I would say a concept propagated by Hanscom and tried to, whereby he tried to find common values in all religions and try to chart out cooperation between and among the different religions in the world, calling for religions to work for peace and to live in coexistence and harmony. This is very noble, call, considering that we are now living as a global society and that we are so much aware of the other existence. Yeah. Um, and from the perspective of Islam, uh, we believe that every man has been entrusted with fitrah. And this fitrah is the credibility that makes man able to differentiate truth from error. So this answers why people, regardless whether they are, affiliated to particular religion or not, they can be a kind person. Some people thought that people do not need religion to be good, to be virtuous, to be ethical. Why? Because from the perspective of Islam, every man is granted with this instinctive nature, with the Tariqis is so generous, sensuous commoners, that we love all things that are good. But from the perspective of Islam, it is the temptation, satanic temptation, our lust that deviate us or distracted us from this true nature of mankind. So, from the perspective of Islam, there is no problem to acknowledge that man is naturally good. Man is born with these good qualities. Yeah? Um, however, however, from the perspective of Islam, this sense of goodness, virtues, and the ability to differentiate from bad from good is not something that uh, is not something that is foreign from the revelation. It is something that Allah has inspired us, has revealed to us. And especially when I talk about fitrah just now, it is something that is gifted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to every man without faith. To every man without faith. So from the perspective of Islam, this ability to know good and bad, to choose from good and bad, virtues and vices, has something to do with faith, has something to do with religion, which means that our moral is not totally secular. Our moral has something to do with religion. And as a matter of fact, the Prophet said that he was sent to all mankind to beautify or to make the morality of man uh, perfect. And he himself as the iconic character of this perfect man with perfect character. So religion helps man to become good, helps man to become moral, helps man to become responsible. So from the perspective of Islam, uh, if you are religious, the outcome of your religiosity is that you become moral. So moral is not in separation from your religious values. This is one. And secondly, morality is not merely a secular concept that, because every religion teach the same good values, that all religions are the same. It is not, the understanding is not at that level, because values of good and bad comes from God. It's not merely from our reasoning or rational thinking. So our reasoning and rational thinking is guided from the revelation. This is the source of our knowledge towards morality. One. And secondly, the gift that Allah has imposed in us without fail, every man without fail. This is also the gift from the heaven. This is at least how Islam perceives morality. It's not profane and mundane in that regard. It's from Allah. So that's why you find that Muslims always say everything good is from Allah, and everything bad is from ourselves. Why? Because the bad things is because we follow our temptation, because we follow the satanic temptation, we follow our lusts, so on and so forth. All right. So what is important here? It's okay to accept the idea that religion teaches good things, but that does not make all religions the same. However, if you look at the discourse of global ethics, that there is some tendency among the propagator to regard that all religions are the same just because every religion teaches men to be good, which is uh, against the teaching of Islam. Yeah? And secondly, the Islamic critics to syncretism. This is a full-fledged polytheism. And we know that in Islam, Allah says that He can forgive any sin except for polytheism, ashirku. And syncretism is is full-fledged polytheism, is full-fledged shirk, because syncretism failed to recognize revelation. Syncretism submit to human interpretation of religion, and syncretism recognize human ability to create religion. Now, how is this possible in the context of belief? Because every man has its own interpretation and understanding if it is not guidance, properly guidance. So you will not end the questions of why there are so many religions, because men will continue to innovate religion based on their preference, based on their context, and based on their liking. So how will this stop diversity? There will be no end to diversity of religions. Whereas we know that from the perspective of Islam, Islam wants men or Muslims to encourage people to call people to Islam, not to allow people to continue in their misinterpretation of religion. Yeah. So if syncretic approach is recognized, it will bring to no end to diversity of religion, and this is against the reason why Muslims against the role of the Muslims to call people to be united in the faith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. And obviously from the perspective of Islam, syncretism, not only polytheism, but if someone innovate a new religion, this is heretical. This is heretical, and this is pure sin from the eyes of Allah. And finally, the last critiques that I want to share in my video clip today is on the pluralistic, on the perennial philosophy. This is one of the controversial approaches in the interpretation of religious diversity. There is some truth that perennial philosophy is a discipline developed in the West as a response against secularism. It's very unfortunate occasion that when as the West advanced, discover science and technology, but they lost faith in religion, they lost faith in metaphysics, they lost faith in revelation. And perennial philosophy came or emerged in order to call men to come back to this idea of metaphysics using the language of philosophy. Yeah. And some of the transcendentalists claim that perennial philosophy is a traditional method. What do they mean by traditional method? Is a method that is recognized by religion. But this is not the case of Islam. Because from the perspective of Islam, without perennial philosophy, Muslims are obligated to believe in metaphysics, alamul ghaib. So you need not to fall into or to be in love with perennial philosophy, to become a Sufist, to be able to recognize metaphysics. As a matter of fact, the whole lots of your Arkanul Iman, Arkanul Islam, is the whole lots about metaphysics. Yeah? Believe in Allah, Allah that you cannot see, but you can feel. Believe in the Malaika, believe in Yaumul Akhirah, believe in Qadar wa Qadar. These are all metaphysics. And we do not need a special discipline to make us believe in metaphysics. But this is what happened in the West when they have discarded religion, when they discarded revelation from their disciplines, from their source of knowledge, from their epistemology altogether. Yeah? And it is quite worrying to Muslims that some transcendentalists have been equating perennial philosophy, the call of perennial philosophy to this transcendent unity of religion as the call to Al-Hanif, Deen Al-Hanif, the Deen of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and they call that this Deen is esoteric truth. So this is pure confusion from the perspective of Islam because Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam has never expounded the idea of transcendent unity of the truth. He called men to believe in Allah. He called men to believe in the prophets before him. And he called men to believe in the oneness of Allah. And this belief in the oneness of Allah is also the belief of all the prophets to the prophet up to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, and what is also quite alarming about this group is because the transcendentalists recognize metaphysics, but most of them uh, do not follow, an explicit forms of religion or system of belief. So most of them practice meditation to demonstrate or to manifest their belief. So this is something that is against Islam because in Islam you have the metaphysics, but you have also the forms, and your conviction to the metaphysics have to be demonstrated. How do you demonstrate it? You demonstrate it by following the forms, the ethics, the akidah, and the akhlaq, the sharia. So you follow all these forms because it gives shape to your belief system. So we cannot think of a belief system without any forms, or only landing on mere zikir or meditation towards God. This is impossible because when Prophet Muhammad says that al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakumul islamu dina, he entrusted in us really the religion of Islam with all its metaphysics as well as with its forms. Yeah. Now, Al-Farqi rejected perennial philosophy because he said that perennial philosophy failed to acknowledge the criteria of a religion. So you're not able to differentiate religion because the religion does not have criteria. The only criteria is metaphysics. Yeah, and this metaphysics not even pertain to every man because this metaphysics can only pertain to an elitist group, exclusive group is capable of using esoteric means to arrive at the highest truth. So Al-Farqi rejected perennial philosophy uh, and he does not recognize it as mainstream, from the discipline of Islam. And I think with regard to that, it's quite apparent to us that religious pluralism within this trend is incompatible to Islam. So I think that's about it today. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll see you again in class, inshallah. Assalamualaikum.